recording, and then whoever can make it could just hop on. But yeah, let's get started. Oh God. Oh yeah, this is the right one. Okay, so I took, as always, I took the 104 quiz early. I felt very confident that this was going to be easy, and I'm gonna be totally honest, there were a lot of things on there where I'm like, oh, I didn't think that was going to be on there, and it was. So all that's highlighted, just know that focus on that. If I were like, I would just focus on this. Like, don't focus on anything else. I feel like this will help you a lot with the studying. You have MLU, which mean length of utterance. So it's just the average length of a child's utterances. In order to measure this, one must count the number of morphemes in a collection of utterances. And morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning in language. There are two types. You have bound and unbound. So unbound is when a word has meaning on its own, so like a root word. And then bound is when it needs to be attached to another morpheme in order to carry meaning. So this is prefixes and suffixes, and I put the example on here, ing. You know, if you put walking, it means you walked in the past, or you will walk. And then walked meaning you did walk in the past, and then es is like plural, and then ness, the ness. Delete that. Recounts. It is story of events in which a child participated. This is the most common type of narrative in young children. Pragmatics, again, we learned this last semester during the first module about pragmatics. And it's the social rule of what to say, when to say it, and how to engage with others. And then you have fast mapping. We learned this a few modules ago, or a few weeks ago. It is when a child gathers information about a new word. They store that information into long-term memory, and then when the word is encountered again, they gather and store additional information of the word. And then you have narratives, which is early narratives may only be a few sentences. Their stories can be circulatory. I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. With no defining sequence. And then you have negotiation, and there are three types. You have non-existent, rejection, and denial. So non-existent is cookie all gone. Rejection is no pea soup, meaning that they don't want it. And then denial is express disagreement, where they say, no, that's not a kitty, that's a horsey. And then as preschool year progresses, between 31 to 64 months, their ability to tell a story and have a conversation expands. But yeah, those are the things to study for. And then moving on to, let's do 217 next instead of 210. I'm not ready for that. This is what I recommend that you study for. I took this test earlier today. Out of the 10 questions, I only got one wrong, so it was super easy. Most of it is just, again, common sense. You know, you read something and you're just like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like that, obviously you wouldn't do that. But know the difference between interpreter and a translator. Know that they are not the same. An interpreter is when they are translating oral communication into another language. And then a translator is when they're translating written language into another language. Bilingual children with language learning disorder experience problems and with both languages. It is just not one language. They have to have problems in both in order to have a disorder. SLPAs can provide the following with adequate training and supervision. assisting the SLPA with bilingual translation during screening and assessment activities. They could serve as an interpreter for patient and families and provide services under the SLV supervision for individuals who do not use English. However, if you are bilingual, you are not required to be a translator or a interpreter. Just because another language doesn't mean that you're going to be expert at it. Take me, for example. I do know Spanish. I understand it, but I do have problems speaking it. That's why I do want to get my certification in in Spanish. So as an interpreter, you do not want to be going in blind into a session. So you want to know, at least be aware of what's going on in the session and know the procedures. Is also part of the SLPA's job to help you when you have any questions. So let's say you have an SLPA who is not bilingual, but you do have a patient who is, let's say, Spanish only. And so you have an interpreter come in, and that SLPA is responsible to kind of tell you what's going on, because you're there to help. You're there to help the client to make sure that they're comfortable and they understand what's going on too. And then cultural competence is something that you continue to learn even after becoming an SLPA. So you're continuing learning what cultural competence is throughout your career. It's not, oh, I know what it is and that's it. No, you continue to learn different things about it. And then last but not least, this one. So before I get into this, I know it's really hard for me, it was hard to look at the letters right here and this. So what I did, I just copied and I took a screenshot and made it bigger. So for those of you at home watching the YouTube video, you could pause this and quiz yourself. And then, you could go back to see which ones you got wrong, which ones you got right, and that way you know which ones to study for. But yeah, I hope this helps. And whoever needs this image, I could always email them. I could email this to you. But yeah, so let's get started. You have the only 3 definitions, which is good. You have source filter. It describes how oral cavity shapes speech. States that a voicing source is generated by vocal folds, routed through the vocal tract, and then shaped into sounds of speech. I know I'm going to get this word right, so I'm not going to bother pronouncing it, but it's the open between the oral pharynx and the nasopharynx. And the nasal cavity warms and humidifies air to protect the lungs. Fine nasal hairs prevent particles from entering lower respiratory tract. Articulation for speech is process of bringing 2 or more movable speech structures together to form the sounds of speech. And then the vocal tract consists of the oral cavity, nasal cavity, and the pharynx. And then the articulatory system depends on the lips, the tongue, and the soft palate. I know it's a lot of mobile structures. So for me, the way that I remember it, I just remember the immobile because it's only three, which is the teeth, hard palate, and the alveolar bridge of the upper jaw. And then the rest is mobile structures, which is the tongue, lower jaw, soft palate, lips, cheeks, the pharynx, the larynx, and the hyoid bone. I feel like for this one, it's going to be mix and match, like which one's mobile and which one's immobile. I haven't taken the test yet, but I just have a feeling it's going to be like that because that's a lot too. I hope it's not short answered where it's like, name all 8. But we'll see. And then the oral cavity contains the hard palate, the soft palate, the uvula, the anterior and posterior follicle pillars, and then the tonsils. And then stuff to know. This was already answered, and if they're wrong, let me know. But when I looked at the study guide, the answer was no for all speech for all speech structures mobile, and then the most significant cavity is oral. I didn't look if it was right or not. I saw it was answered, and I'm like, oh, one less thing to worry about to look up. But if it's wrong, let me know. And then match the types of occlusion to the definition. So the first one is proper, needed for God, I'm saying that wrong.
Mastication.
Mastication.
It
Class
just means
1.
chewing. So yeah.
Okay. Why can't they just say that? I don't know why they have to. They have to
Like in
make
Spanish,
this.
it's masticar, so maybe it's mastication, kind of like to
Yeah,
chew.
a lot of
Okay.
languages use mastique of some sort or something like that for chewing.
That made a lot of sense. Masticar. Good job, Becky. I didn't even think about it like that.
I didn't think about it either.
Well, that's the first thing that came to mind when I read that word.
Okay, good to know. Oh, that's nice. Well, I'm not gonna have any problems remembering that one. I don't know about the rest. Then class 1 is normal orientation of the mandible and maxilla. So I feel like this one is overbite, right? Or it's normal, right? This is the normal one, and then the one on this one is overbite, right? I'm making stuff up.
Only the proper occlusion should be the normal one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I read the chapter and I just got so confused that I exit my screen, and I'm like, I'm gonna
It
take a
just
5-minute
means
break.
that the lower jaw is fine, but like the upper parts of the jaw are not in the first one.
So it's a overbite then.
It's the overbite, yeah.
Okay,
like the other parts are fine except for the overbite part.
Okay.
Yeah, and then similar with the other one, like the molars, in your teeth are fine, but the incisors are all wacky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, so the first one, overbite, and then normal molars, but abnormal orientation of incisors. This class 2 is relatively retracted mandible, may be a product of relatively related, I don't know what that word is, micrognathia.
Micrognathia, I've never heard of it, so I'm not sure.
Okay, well then I'm just gonna delete that. And then class 3, relatively protrude mandible. And then match the terms to the misalignment to its description. For this one, the way that I remember, T twisted, T troceverse, T twisted. Lambioverse is tooth tilts towards the lips, so L lips. And then the lingua version is the tooth tilts towards the tongue, so L lingua is lengua in Spanish. Distroverse is tooth tilts away from the midline of the arch. Meso, I don't know how to pronounce this one. Meso version, tooth tilts towards the midline between the two central incisors. And then infraverted is tooth does not erupt significantly, and then Supraverted is tooth erupts too far. And then here is the first part of the figure. And then here's I try to match it up, so then this one goes to this figure. And then this goes up here. But yeah, with this one, the figure that I showed you earlier, I erased all the ones that we did not have to label, because it was only what, A through H and then O and Q, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I erased it, but I could send this to someone. So that way you're able to quiz yourself and also not get confused, like, oh, I forgot what L was. Wait, we don't have to know L. But yeah.
I was confused too. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know, I saw this. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot to memorize.
Yeah, she
I
said in
know.
the lecture, in the presentation, that we didn't have to know all of them, just the ones that she had labeled.
Okay, good to know. Good to know, good to know. But yeah, I could try to send this, like all this, including, because for me, when I try to copy and paste the whole study guide, it doesn't copy the figures. Does anyone have that problem?
I do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. But yeah, I tried copy and
Well,
paste
mine
this
was
on
acting
Google
up,
Doc.
remember? Mine was acting up weird,
Oh
like at
yeah.
first. And then I just restarted the computer and it was like back to normal. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. It was all funky.
Yeah, I'm doing this on a Word pad. I try to copy and paste it to a Google Doc, and again, I couldn't copy the figures on
Maybe
there.
what if you get him like, you know how you download him? Like you could get him in Google and just look for the anatomy and or look it up at the name and then just save it as a picture and then insert it. Maybe we could do it that way.
Oh, like what I did here, where I took a screenshot of it. I could do that. I could like make this a little,
Because I think
like
I've seen
crop
these
it
pictures
out.
in Google
Yeah, I'll do
and
that.
then we could just save them and just insert the picture and just adjust it there.
Yeah, I can do that. But yeah, that's all for today.
Oh my
It's a
goodness.
lot of freaking information. Don't worry, we only have two more weeks until the midterm, or a week and a half, I should say, until the midterm.
We're almost there.
We're almost
Mhm.
there. I'm gonna stop sharing though, and also stop recording.